Maestro Elias Vance, famous for his tempestuous personality and his priceless diamond-studded gold baton, a centuries-old family heirloom, mysteriously vanishes from his private dressing room at Carnegie Hall. The event occurs precisely during the intermission of a sold-out concert. Shocking New York's cultural elite, Kaito Ishikawa and Maria Rodriguez are called to the scene immediately. Detective Miller is already there, visibly stressed and skeptical about the case's severity. The dressing room is immaculate, locked from the inside, and the gold baton, the supposed motivation for any robbery, rests on the mahogany table. Miller quickly insists that Vance, notorious for his escalating debts, orchestrated his own disappearance to avoid creditors. Kaito, however, ignores the lock and focuses on a detail that Miller and security missed: a knocked-over glass of distilled water that barely left a stain on the wool carpet. Kaito, adjusting his glasses, calmly deduces Elias Vance did not flee, nor was he the victim of a robbery. He was taken. The baton left behind was a deliberate maneuver to divert the investigation towards the financial aspect. Maria begins investigating backstage, discovering that Vance had a violent argument with the orchestra's first violinist, Clara Soto, moments before he vanished. The reason was an unacceptable mistake in the performance of a piece during the concert's first half. Maria locates Clara in the warm-up room. Clara is cold, composed, and does not hide her contempt for Vance, calling him a tyrant, but swears she was on stage preparing for the second act, with dozens of musicians as her alibi. The only physical clue in the dressing room, besides the distilled water, is a single black silk half-glove dropped on the floor. Kaito inspects the glove, determining it is custom-made, designed to prevent fingerprints or sweat on delicate instruments, not a common orchestral accessory. Maria, utilizing her network and former journalist skills, discovers that Maestro Elias Vance had abruptly removed his twin brother, Arthur Vance, from his will. Arthur is Elias's tour manager and his emotional opposite, calm, reserved, almost invisible. He had unrestricted access to all restricted areas of Carnegie Hall. Arthur appears at the scene, presenting himself as the heartbroken brother. He sheds discreet tears and expresses concern that the disappearance will ruin Elias's career. Kaito observes Arthur closely and notes that the trembling in his hands is not from sadness but from physical and nervous exhaustion. Kaito asks Arthur about the distilled water. Arthur hesitates slightly, claiming the maestro used it for health reasons. Kaito decides to revisit the dressing room, now with the perspective of a planned kidnapping. He deduces that distilled water was not for drinking but a cleaning agent used to erase fingerprints from an electronic lock sensor or some other sensitive surface. The key, however, is the timing. The maestro was kidnapped to be silenced during the 20-minute intermission. Kaito focuses on sound. Where, in all of the massive Carnegie Hall, would the sound of a struggle or a shout be completely muffled from the main stage and the audience? Kaito points to the acoustic recording chamber, an airtight soundproof room used for secret rehearsals and audio mixing. They hurry to the recording chamber. Inside, Elias Vance is tied to a chair. The kidnapper is not Arthur, but the Carnegie Hall sheet music librarian, Ms. Evans, wearing the black silk half-glove. She confesses immediately. Ms. Evans explains that Elias Vance was about to premiere a stolen score that was, in fact, the never-published masterpiece of her deceased father, an unknown composer whom Vance had exploited and ruined years earlier. She admits using the distilled water to clean the lock. She insists she acted alone, motivated by revenge and her father's stolen honor. She claims that kidnapping was only to delay the piece's premiere. The case appears solved. Miller handcuffs Ms. Evans, relieved to have a quick resolution. Kaito, however, is uneasy. He walks slowly to the chamber table and picks up the gold baton Ms. Evans had brought with her. Kaito, with a quick and unexpected movement, drops the baton onto the marble floor. The sound is a dull, hollow thud. Kaito, with his piercing gaze fixed on Miller, declares, "The baton is fake. The real baton with the original diamonds had been swapped by Arthur Vance." Kaito deduces that Arthur orchestrated the kidnapping. He hired Ms. Evans, providing her with a custom glove and a small sum of money. Knowing her motive, the composer father was perfectly plausible to the police. Ms. Evans was merely an emotional decoy and a distraction, while the police and Miller focused on the kidnapping and the sheet music mystery. Arthur would be escaping with the original baton, Elias's most valuable inheritance. Miller is alerted in time. Arthur Vance is apprehended at Grand Central Terminal, attempting to board an upscale train out of state, with the real baton hidden in a secret compartment of his briefcase. Kaito reveals that Arthur's exhaustion was not concern for his brother, but the physical strain and pressure of executing the baton swap and the false kidnapping within a 20-minute interval. Kaito adjusts his glasses with silent satisfaction. Maestro Elias has an explosive temper, but his brother, Arthur, has the patience and coldness of a calculating killer. The real score Arthur wanted to silence was not the music. It was the fate of the inheritance, the baton. Miller, closing the case and looking at Kaito with a smile of recognition and professional respect, accepts the conclusion. Ms. Evans served her purpose, but Arthur, the silent, invisible twin, was the true mastermind, whose greed was uncovered by Kaito's Japanese observation and flawless logic.